Good morning, Philadelphia. Welcome to Race on Main Street. We have a terrific show for you with Kirk Berry.
Kirk Berry.
Kirk Berry.
He's an author.
He's an author. He's a motivational speaker. Young man, interesting history that led him into motivational speaking and mentoring kids. Terrific show for you. And kirkberry.com for all of you that want to check out his book and his website. It's there for you.
Try not to notice how much taller he is than we are.
Not me, Kirk. Philadelphia, and thanks for joining us for a great edition of Race on Main Street. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy day to check in with us. We have a terrific two-part show with Kirk Berry. He's got a fascinating story, fascinating career, so we thought it was worthy of a part one and part two. So we're looking forward to having him on the show very shortly. You can always visit his website at kirkberry.com, and for all of our past episodes and future episodes as they come in, you can check us out at raceonmain.com. So we have a great show. As always, introduce my brother, my co-host, and the
side help.
Stuart, how are you?
I'm well. It's been a good, we had a good holiday break.
Yes.
And now we're back.
One of the things that I know we wanted to talk about, I'll jump right into it,
Sure.
is like the whole idea of the election and hacking and Russia and some of the issues that have come about.
Yeah, I just heard this morning on my way in to the office, I was listening to the radio, and they're talking about, they call themselves the Super Eight or something like that, these 8 congressmen. Dianne Feinstein is one of them, and another gentleman from California was talking this morning. And they are actually investigating not only if it were a hack, but they're actually investigating the campaigns to see if there was any quid pro quo going on between the campaigns and our friends over in Russia. So it could be beyond just simple social media or the release of documents or anything of that nature, to actually go into, were there agreements struck and deals made.
Right.
So,
I guess it's hard to say. I know that there's been some pushback in a lot of different directions to make sure that people want to feel confident in the system, right? That's I think a big differential between the United States and lots of countries out there and a lot of other Western countries.
Well, sure. We have an election and the opposition party doesn't get put in jail, so that's
right.
That's always a good thing.
Or killed.
Or killed. But it's beyond the point I'm trying to make is it's not just simply, did some Russian computer hacker figure out a way to change the vote counts,
right?
Or something like that. It's not, in a sense, it's not even that.
Right.
What it is an investigation of who knew what,
right,
and when they knew it, and if they knew it. And what this guy, the senator from California, was talking about much more prevalently was the how. They are very much about figuring out the how, because why, or the other questions, why, when, where, blah blah blah,
kind of irrelevant at this point.
But if there's a how, we got to figure out how to make it how not.
Right.
So
yes.
That's what they're really investigating. That's what they're really interested in, is the procedure.
Yeah. I wonder if
this went through,
how it'll change things or what will come of it. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it won't just be a whole lot of money spent on nothing.
Well, but on the other hand, hopefully they spend a whole lot of money and find out that there was nothing and that our election was not hacked.
Right. And then if they need to button up anything along the way, they will and go from there. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's certainly something that is it's on everybody's mind. That's for sure.
It is, and we'll see. Hopefully, like you say, hopefully we can plug up any holes.
Really, though, at the end of the day, I don't think it changes anything. You know,
Well,
so
it's not going
if
to change
you-
who the president is.
That's what I
like
mean.
that,
So I mean, if you are a huge Hillary Clinton supporter, don't
No,
get your hopes
yeah,
up
they're
that
not going
there's
to.
gonna
They're
be
not
some
going to
kind
say,
of reversal.
right. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
No,
we're
no.
talking about. But hey, let's onwards and upwards.
Yeah, I suppose. And as an interesting point to this, and we'll jump right to Kirk Berry and talking about him and his career as a motivational speaker and a mentor, and now newly an author. Very interesting what he's written and what he's writing about. I had read somewhere not too long ago that most of the countries out there who are on top of their intelligence know what every other country's doing on some level.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they
when
keep
you think
tabs
about
on it. It's part of what you do as a country.
It is, I guess, and that doesn't mean that it's acceptable. But on the other hand, also, you have to understand what the concept of hacking is. Also, I mean, hacking could be social media dumps.
Right.
So that's, and you have to determine whether or not that's actionable on an espionage level.
Right.
Or if there's just someone out there putting their opinion out on Facebook.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, I wonder, and we'll leave it at this, is maybe all of those tweets from Donald Trump that are, you think like, don't you have, other stuff to do right now? Maybe somebody else is hacking in and
doing it.
And doing it, and just signing his name to it, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, speaking of signing our names to it, our guest today is Kirk Berry at, again, Scott mentioned kirkberry.com. Kirk is, let's put his email address out there also. It's kberry@kirkberry.com. Kirk is a gentleman who has spent his career as a motivational speaker for various institutions and various organizations. Kirk is a graduate of the State of New York University System, SUNY Buffalo. And Kirk is the recent author of the book, 5 Powerful Tips for Motivating Youth, which, motivating youth, I have a couple of teenagers that I'd like to talk to Kirk about. So, Kirk, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks for being here.
Let's start off with kind of an open-ended motivational speaking. How'd you get into that?
A long story short, let me first say thank you.
I'll make it
both.
short. We got to kill like half an hour. Right?
This is your platform. Tell us.
Let me both say thank you for having me today. And so
You're very welcome.
I'm from a small town called Norristown, which is right down the Schuylkill, right?
Sure.
And so not far from Philadelphia, not far from the studio. And went to middle school there, went to high school there, and I wound up playing football, wrestling, and track while in high school. So I was a 3-tier athlete. Many before me and a bunch of kids now still are 3-tier athletes. I just happened to be one that got a full Division I scholarship and went to the University of Buffalo. There were 2 other kids that year. One went to Penn State, one went to the University of Delaware. And we had only lost 2 games our senior year. Over the 3 years that I played varsity football, we had won 30 games. So it was pretty good for Southeastern PA.
Sure.
And I'll be honest and say CB West and North Penn always knocked us out. If you follow high school sports or anybody watching, they were really good during the late 90s and 2000. Well, not only did I get a full scholarship, but fast forward 4 years later, I graduated college. And what a lot of people don't know is there's tons of kids that get scholarships, but they don't all graduate. Sometimes they drop out. Sometimes it's just because they enroll into the draft, and that's your spring semester of your senior year.
The sporting draft.
Yep, the sporting draft,
okay,
right? The football draft, excuse me. Thanks for correcting me. So some football players, right, they prepare for the draft. So if that's your final spring semester and you didn't graduate early, if you get drafted, that's great. But if you don't, you didn't take your last couple core credits, right, your senior year. And so I graduated. Never wanted to play in the NFL, never tried to be that good of a star.
What position did you play?
Defensive tackle and nose guard. And so I was captain my senior year at the University of Buffalo. I did redshirt as a freshman, but I graduated in 4 years. And in my 5th year that I played my last season, and then I went abroad and lived in Ireland. And so I've been to Spain, Italy, London, and South Africa twice. To answer your question, a kid from a small town called Norristown who did all of that before he was 23, everyone said, you got to tell the kids. You got to share with them how you did it, because we hear so many stories of kids who don't do it or why they can't make it. And like I said, there's tons of athletes before me from Norristown who definitely went on to play college and graduated and did really well at bigger schools than Buffalo. But a lot of people thought I was important and I should share my story. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And so in 2006, 2007, 2008, I would guest speak at the school or at different schools once or twice a year. And then in your early 20s, and even while you're in high school and in college, you hear enough adults say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Well, it wasn't until 2011 that I turned it into a business. In 2009, I had the opportunity to speak in front of 2,500 people, and everyone said I did a great job. It was at a graduation ceremony at a church, and everyone said it was amazing. And that was kind of the turning point for me, but it still took me, and that increased my exposure to speaking. But it wasn't until 2011 I turned it into a business, and I haven't looked back ever since.
So I have a question. It's a fascinating story, and you're right. You love what you do. You don't work a day in your life. Look, that's not everybody gets that luxury or that benefit or that great sort of hand dealt to them. That really is not the case. I mean, you make your own fortune kind of thing, that's for sure. But what was your major in college? Like, was this something that you were gearing up towards or training for, or was it just one of those things where you had this knack for it? And then you couple that with a great story and a nice presence, and then all of a sudden you have this sort of like perfect circumstance to really shine.
So I have a knack for it, but I've been preparing for it all my life. First thing I tell kids is, I get paid to do what I used to get detentions for. That's my preparation. I used to get a lot of detentions for talking when I wasn't supposed to, when I was supposed to, but talking too much. And also, it was a strength of mine as well when I say it comes naturally. My major in college was business. I have a BS in business administration. And so a lot of what I do for my business comes first nature because I went to school for it. But the other part of my story is that I struggled academically all my life. Not struggled like F's and D's, but I struggled with test anxiety. I struggled with reading, writing, and synonyms and antonyms. And so I took the SATs 3 times just to get into college. And your question about was I preparing for this, if we were college classmates and we were in a psychology class, a marketing class, you name whatever course you want, when they do group projects, there's a researcher, there's a writer, and then there's a presenter. And nobody wants to present, not in front of 300 people, not in front of 50 people. So I was like, all right, I know what part of the presentation I'm gonna do, because research, we're never gonna get it done. Writing the paper, we're gonna fail. But presenting it, I'm gonna make sure we get that A+. And so what I tell a lot of the audiences that I speak to, my strength was other people's weaknesses, but it helped me in college. I still had to be there when you did the research, and I still had to be there when you wrote the paper. Because in order for me to present it its best, I need to be there. Now, I may not be doing anything while we're in the library, but when we put it all together, I'll know it well enough to present it. And so that helps me to this day when I'm preparing and in front of audiences. So it was something that's always been a knack that I always got in trouble for, but I was able to hone in those skills as I got into higher education.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Tell me about the book. First of all, tell me about the book, and tell me how did the project come about? How did you decide to write it? How did you go about it?
Starting a business in 2011, all the way up until last year, 2016, I had no product. I was the product. And so you're not really a good speaker if you don't have any product. You might be a great speaker, but the whole point of this business, because it is a business, you learn is you want to have multiple streams of income, so you want product and you want to be coaching people and things of that nature. So I heard that from enough people that I said, you know what, I think I can do this. Originally, it was my goal that I would just wait till I had enough followers that when I wrote a book, it would force everyone to buy it. Kind of like Steve Harvey, right? His book sells so much because he has such a big following. But then I decided I don't want to wait till I'm 55 for that to happen, right? He had to put a lot of years in for that to happen.
Sure.
And so last year I decided at the end of 2015, I wanted a book by May of 2016. And so in July of 2015, we started writing, myself and someone else, because writing still is not a strength of mine. And so I had to tell them my whole exact story. And I actually found out I had to write something if it was really going to be told in my story. I had to write anyway. Mm-hmm. And so it took us 6 months to do the narrative, and then it took us another 4 months to do the editing. And so a 10-month project, and I produced a book that came out at the end of April, May of last year. Mm-hmm. And so it was something that I wanted to be able to be considered a real speaker, not someone who just talks, but someone who does have product. And the other part of that is people said, you're a great speaker, but when you leave, we have nothing of you that we can take. Mm-hmm. And that's really the business side of it, right? You got to leave people with something. And so this book now has that. When I'm done speaking, people can take their notes, but not only their notes, they can take a book and something that shows them how to do what I do from the stage.
Before we get into what is in the book,
yes.
Let me just show it again here. It's the 5 powerful tips for motivating youth. It is available as an ebook from Amazon and from iTunes, and it's available in paperback form right on Kirk's website, kirkberry.com.
It's also available at Barnes & Noble in an ebook
format.
format.
And Barnes & Noble. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes
Correct.
as an ebook.
Yeah, and the website, kirkberry.com, you can pick it up. It's a fantastic book. You talk about 5 powerful tips for motivating kids. It will do well for any adult who has children. It will do well for any adult who wants some, there's motivational concepts that as a kid, or applying towards kids, certainly adults can apply towards themselves as well. I always think that if you're gonna, motivate somebody to get up out of bed every morning, both grown-ups and kids have to do that. My method is I send in my dogs to get the kids up. And,
Why don't you ask him what his methods are?
I'm
What's in the book?
Yeah, but tell us about it. Not everybody gets to have a dog to jump on their kids as their motivation. Fill us in.
I'll piggyback off of that. So he sends the dog in, and so I have a 4-year-old daughter. She's my princess, Chelsea. And so every morning we wake up saying it's time to make the donuts.
A big mantra going on there. That's nice.
That's great.
I'm sure that particular company that we won't mention is pleased to have that.
Yeah, I'm sure, but so she knows it's time to get up and go to work, and she knows it's time for her to do something and be productive. As it relates to the book and speaking, how I motivate youth is the first tip is begin with dialogue. Let's stop having a monologue. Let's stop telling your 16-year-old daughter what you did when you were 16. Let's stop telling your kids what you did when you were 16. And let's stop telling my 4-year-old what I did.
But it's my time. Okay.
It's
I
gone.
mean, I had to listen to it.
Right, exactly.
Yes, and we're going to naturally do it anyway.
Right.
You're never going to stop. But when we start having that dialogue, when we start hearing what their interests are, what they like, it's never going to change what our rules are and what they have to do. But when you do what you have to, now I can entertain all the things that you want to. And so right from there, it changes the whole perspective. It's
tremendously.
like, oh, right. And so it changes the whole perspective, and it allows them to know that we heard them, right? So the way it works in my house, and even when we go out to eat, my daughter at 4, she loves to talk. I wonder where she gets it from. The waiter asks her what she would like to have to drink, and she says, I'll have water first, and then I'll have orange juice, or I'll have lemonade, right? She's motivated to get to that lemonade, but the only way is through having water first. And so, the second tip is create discipline. And what I just shared with you, she's got the discipline down. Mm-hmm. And so the book and how I work and motivate youth is by taking them through these steps that is all about communication. When you read the book, when people read the book, it is talking about how we communicate. And so 5 powerful tips for motivating youth. I love what you said, Scott, about those that have children or those that work with children. But what about the CEO who's hiring the young intern?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the young intern says, hey, boss, I want your job one day. We should hear that. Let's have a dialogue about it. Mm-hmm. You want to know what time I got up today? What time did you, the intern, what time did you get up? Mm-hmm. And so the picture shows young kids, and my audience typically is young kids. And so, but at the end of the day, we're talking about motivating someone who's younger to you that aspires to do more. This conversation happens through dialogue, creating discipline. After we create discipline, we give them a challenge. So what does that look like? Everywhere I go, I hear young boys or young girls. Young boys tell me they want to play basketball. They want to be in the NBA. A young girl might tell me that as well. Or a young girl might tell me she wants to be a model. So instead of telling them they get a plan B or the only top 1% get to do those careers, I hear them out. And then I tell the basketball player, I say, well, every day you should run 100 suicides, shoot 100 foul shots, shoot 100 three-pointers, and do 100 layups every day. When he tells me I don't want to do that, I say, well, you don't want to be an NBA player. Right? That's right. I'm giving him the discipline, and it's a challenge, right?
Sure.
Those two kind of go hand in hand. That if this is really what you want, I'm in full support, but this is where you need to get started. And so it's discouraging when you say you probably need to get a plan B. It's discouraging when you say, well, did you ever think about this? It's extremely motivating when you say, you know what, you can do it. Here's where you start. And it doesn't start with our story. Well, when I was your age, I played. Now they shut down.
That's so unfair.
I mean, everything you're saying is really very, 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 I'm going to say, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's very simple, but very insightful. Because you're right, most of these things, I'm starting to think about myself as a parent, and Stu as a parent who I know very well, and some of the folks that I see around the area and things like that. And you're like, these things that you're saying, it's really sort of saying the same stuff, but in a much, much, much better way. I mean, there's, to have dialogue, most folks, that's not it at all. And that's a very simple thing, but hard to pull off. So you have to be reminded of it. It's great.
I would completely agree. They are simple, and I'll even go one step further. I didn't create anything. This is very old school. If you have parents, what it is that it's packaged in a way that takes you to where you've been trying to get a kid. You've been trying to motivate them. There's so many parents who reach out to me and say, my kid's not motivated in school. Well, hey, they're probably not going to be. Why is school important is the conversation. It's not about being motivated in school.
It's more about the pathway than the...
Exactly. And so I tell people that this book is a tool. If you're looking for something new that you've never heard before, this isn't the book for you. But if you're looking to take these things that are simple, and I've made them a tool that everyone can use. And so the people that have read the book thus far have really enjoyed it. Like I said, I started selling them in May. I sold 600 copies last year from May to December. And so one of the things that is a little secret about the book is it's a workbook inside. I didn't take the business route where you could upsell people if they bought the workbook. There's some parts of the business that I don't want to do, and that's one of them. So I put the activities in the book. So as you shared, Scott, the dialogue can be difficult. The first tip is don't just ask a child what they want to be when they grow up. And then as soon as they tell you, you go, oh, you should take this route. Oh, you should do this. Oh, I know someone that did that. Dialogue is about, you ask that first question, and if anyone knows young people, they don't give you an answer. And even when it's an open-ended question, they still don't give you more than, right? How was school today? Or what did you do at school today?
Fine.
Right? Whatever it is, they're going to, nothing yet. So the first tip is talking about how you keep asking the layers of questions until they open up. And so with that activity, when you read the next 3 chapters, we get to tip 2, which is all the 3 chapters are about. And it talks about creating discipline around what you found out in tip 1 through the dialogue.
So there's a listening element.
That's the only way this is going to, that's the only way motivation is going to work. The only way. And so that the book allows people to take the things that are simple, to take the things that aren't really new, but it's packaged it so that you can come to an outcome that motivates youth.
Yeah, I think that what really it comes down to is, often parents, and you'll hear with your own kids.
My children are perfect.
Yeah.
Don't.
All right, so you'll hear it with their friends' parents. Is this idea that I need to motivate them, and with that comes them just talking.
No, I wish I'd had this book with Sally. I mean, Sally's she wants to be an actress, and we've done what we thought. She's living in New York now. She's 20 years old, and we did what we thought would be good for her. What I should have done was sat her down and say, you need to do. Translate it to that. You need to sing 10 songs a day. You need
right,
because that's what it is.
Dance for an hour a day. You need to do this, and that's what I should have done, rather than saying, "Oh, join the theater group and see what happens."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. As you're talking about, it's funny because you mentioned basketball. I think about old stories you hear from Michael Jordan talking about. He did.
Had to lock the gym and throw him out. And,
Literally, I got 25 more, free throws that I have to go through. No, you got to go. I want to shut the gym and go home already. I'll be done in. Give me 20 more minutes. I'll give you 15. All right, well, okay, and then 15 minutes are up. How about 15 more?
well, normally I would ask you to sum it up, but we're coming back for another show.
Yeah, and
So-
we're also gonna talk. Interesting thing about Kirk, which I know you know, is that he works also in a similar capacity, I would say, with a company called People for People. So we're gonna hear more about that sort of. I don't know if a community outreach program
We'll find out.
or a
Find out in the
program
next
to help
half hour.
Philadelphians that he's a part of, which is fantastic. So, but I want to hear about one thing in particular, and I'm sorry to skip around. We'll have you back because this is fantastic. You have a camp that you call KB, okay? It is a mentoring camp, the KB Power Mentoring Camp. Give us some details on that. It's fascinating. So I want people to hear about it.
KB Power Mentoring Camp. We did first year last August. So 4-day camp where we had 10 kids, some from Philadelphia, Norristown, Chester. And thank you to their parents who trusted me. I've never done a camp before and I never went to camp. As a kid, my mom said I was never interested. And so the reason why I created this is because I wanted a life skills camp. There's a lot of sports camps and there's a lot of camps that are just overnight and you do some camping stuff. Well, this KB Power Mentoring Camp, the kids learn life skills. So they had sessions during camp. One session was how to change a car tire.
That's great.
And they also learned how to change a bike tire. Because as a man, I didn't learn how to change a car tire till I got in the situation of having a flat tire, right? And it shouldn't be that way. These kids, they didn't learn how to swim. They took a swimming session course with lifeguards and everything, but they learned how to swim safety. And so the camp, we had yoga. The camp taught the kids, they got their first aid card because there's a lot of young boys who are raising their younger siblings. And when you see on the news, a kid was shot by another kid or a kid fell down the steps and 911 didn't get there fast enough. And so these kids, can they handle those situations? No, but they're at least more aware and educated what they should do if grandma falls down the steps, or if they get a cut, or how to take care of their younger siblings' cut when they were running out on the street. So we taught them a bunch of things that can help them and carry on through the rest of their life. And so this year's goal is to do 25 kids. And the kids come from Thursday to Sunday. It's an overnight camp that we do in Allentown. And we're going to add sewing to the camp because we want the young men to stop sending their shirts to the dry cleaners like I do to pay for buttons to get sewn on. And so to answer your question, it's a life skills camp for young men. Ages are 11, 12, and 13. And the reason why we do this camp is because we want to get them before they start smelling themselves, before they're taller than their grandma or taller than their mother or big as their dad.
Can they, and all the information on the camp is on the website?
Absolutely.
KirkBerry.com. KirkBerry.com is the website.
And I have a great person that we were speaking about earlier who might be interested in coming in and doing a little bit of like financial planning type stuff for the camp. We'll introduce you I'm not telling you how to run the camp, but it might be an area of not so much financial planning, but the idea of a budget. Hey, you go out and
bounce checkbook.
I guess I'm gonna show my age a little bit, but go out, deliver some papers, you make $20, and that doesn't mean you go spend $20. How do you go about, putting some money away for a rainy day kind of thing? So
Would love the introduction.
yeah, I certainly will. I think it sounds great. So kirkberry.com, you can pick up the book. You can order the ebook if you're so inclined. The KB Power Mentoring Camp, all of those details are there for you. Terrific guests. And on the way out, I'm not even sure how
There
much.
is no way out. See, the clock's over there. You're supposed to look at the clock. You got to say goodbye.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying goodbye. So we have Trump in town today. Interesting thing. So I'm going to take 2 minutes to ask Stu. I actually put this together, which he normally does, but he's the side help needs a kick.
Occasionally.
We talk about some of the most influential women.
Hey, we're all about women. I live in a sorority house. So,
I know you do. It is kind of funny. But some of the most influential women, who do you think's on the list?
Well, my number one influential woman in the entire history of...
I am going to punch you in the mouth if you say your wife.
No. I was going to say Eleanor Roosevelt.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's very, very reasonable.
Yeah. I
sure.
mean, she was she created the circumstance for the modern celebrity woman, how to go about making the world a better place.
Yeah. So
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks was on the
She should be
list.
up there.
So Eleanor Roosevelt was on the list. Rosa Parks was on the list.
In a great and God-fearing nation, I mean, I think Oprah Winfrey belongs on the list.
Probably. She might be a little bit too new for the list, but I think in time that will be represented.
Well, then you go
there.
back to the founding mothers, Martha Washington, Abigail Adams, those people.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So, but what I thought was interesting,
Yes.
and I know the word was influential, was that Rosa Parks came after Katharine Hepburn. I thought that was odd.
Yeah, that's not right.
But it was influential, so it's some influence on, I guess. I'm not saying, but she did beat out Marilyn Monroe, who held the 10th spot.
Rosa Parks did.
Correct.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
So,
Well, that's good.
Philadelphia.
Where did Kim Kardashian come in?
Don't start. So Philadelphia, thanks for watching. We appreciate your time. Don't forget to check out all the episodes at raceonmain.com, and don't forget to check out Kirk Berry. Stay tuned for part 2, but you can certainly catch up with him at kirkberry.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.